Today, we've got questions on the upcoming election and a bunch of Halloween questions, including Vlad the Impaler, Jack the Ripper, H.P. Lovecraft, and Count Dracula. Welcome to another episode of Off the Menu. I'm your host, Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House, here with a resplendent Charles Coulombe.
Resplendent? I'm sort of glittering in majesty.
Yeah.
Okay, if you can see it, I guess it's true. I don't see it, but I've never been my own best critic.
Your glorious return after a prolonged hiatus.
Yes, but that hiatus was in the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Right.
I walked once again. It's true. I walked once again the streets of Boston. I was there at the old State House at King's Chapel in Boston. I was at the Wayside Inn in Sudbury, Mass. I was in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. I saw the White House, the Capitol building itself, where wisdom spews forth from every spigot. What?
I'm just trying to picture the spewing forth of wisdom from every spigot.
It's true. In our nation's capital, the three branches, executive, judicial, and legislative, wallow in wisdom. They reek of it. Wisdom pours from every pore of every lawmaker, every judge, every Supreme Court justice, and the president and every cabinet secretary. I mean, the truth and wisdom just gush forth out of all their orifice.
Incredible.
Isn't that something?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm reminded on this All Souls Day of a song from the Civil Rights era my mommy and daddy taught me. I know I've sung it before, but I want everyone to think about this during the election. You ready?
Ready.
What did you learn in school today, dear little boy of mine? What did you learn in school today, dear little boy of mine? I learned our government must be strong. It's always right and never wrong. Our leaders are the finest of men, and we elect them again and again. That's what I learned in school today. That's what I learned in school.
I like that one, and for some reason, I really like No More Kings. I don't know. It's such a.
Oh, you like that
song.
one?
Yeah.
We gotta have us a president. No more kings. He's gonna do what the people want. No more kings. Yeah, yeah. That. I actually think. Hold on now. This would be too much, but maybe. I think that we actually have the lyrics. Wouldn't that be fun if we do? This is a song, ladies and gentlemen, from Schoolhouse Rock, and I'm happy to sing this song. Here it is. Rocking and a rolling, splashing and a splashing over the horizon. What can it be? The pilgrims sailed the sea to find a place to call their own. In their ship Mayflower, they hoped to find a better home. They finally knocked on Plymouth Rock, and someone said, "We're there." It may not look like home, but at this point, I don't care. Oh, they were missing Mother England. They swore their loyalty until the very end. Anything you say, King, it's okay, King. You know it's kind of scary on your own. Gotta build a new land the way we planned. Could you help us run it till it's grown? I can't do any more of this. It's such crap. He taxed their property. He didn't give them any choice. And back in England, he didn't give them any voice. That's called taxation without representation, and it's not fair. But this is the part at the end. Well, the very end of it is they wanted no more Mother England. They knew the time had come for them to take command. It's very clear you're being unfair, King. No matter what you say, we won't obey. Gonna hold a revolution now, King, and we're gonna run it all our way with no more kings. We're gonna elect a president, no more kings. He's gonna do what the people want. No more kings. We're going to run things our way. No more kings. Nobody's going to tell us what to do. Rocking and a rolling, splishing and a splashing over the horizon. What can it be? Looks like it's going to be a free country.
That was fun.
Yep. Call it COVID blues. Nobody's going to tell us what to do because we're a bunch of morons. And we won't even notice. Oh, man. Isn't that beautiful?
I love it.
Splishing and a splash. Oh,
yeah.
That's great. No more kings. Thank God we won.
Yes. Thank God we won.
What?
Yeah, what? You
Power to the people. Burn, baby, burn. Oh, sorry. Wrong revolution. My mistake. The revolution will not be televised.
So, how's your Halloween, Charles?
My Halloween was wonderful. I had a great time. After 2 weeks, enjoying my return and departure from the country, from the United States, I came back here, and since I live in a sort of American bubble here at the ITI, we do try to keep up American customs. And one of these is an American Halloween. So I carved the jack-o'-lantern, candy was given out, and I have yet to deliver these to their intended owner, but I will.
Beautiful. There we go. That's what we're. Oh man, that's good.
Candy corn. And there's a lot more where that came from. Let me tell you, it was flowing around here these past few days. They're probably the only place in Austria that had this much candy corn, because I brought back some and others had. We actually had a big bag of candy corn that had been purchased in Sleepy Hollow, New York.
Wow.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Was it extra special? I mean, I don't know.
Well, it was Brock's candy corn, It was purchased in Sleepy Hollow, so it had the blessing of the Headless Horseman.
That's interesting. Okay, the blessing of this evil being. Okay.
Well, okay, if you want to put it that way. But who says the Headless Horseman was evil? Maybe he was just misunderstood. Have you any idea how hard it is going along without a brain? And he wasn't even, he wasn't even an elected official.
Have you ever been in Salem on Halloween?
No, I've been on Salem the day before Halloween. And that is just because Salem celebrates a whole month. They call it Haunted Happenings. And they just go on and on and on and on all month long. And I was in just before, actually it was a couple of weeks before Halloween, actually. And I was on my way to the airport, Logan Airport, which is north of Boston, Revere. So I thought, well, let's look at Salem. And boy, was it hopping and a rolling, splishing and a splashing over the horizon. What did I see? Looks like the Witch City to me. They call themselves the Witch City now.
Yeah, well, I'm remembering your line. You said being in Salem on Halloween is like being in the Holy Land during Easter.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. I mean, it's true. Salem, I mean, it's their great feast. The whole month is dedicated to bizarrery. In fact, I was kind of hoping Kamala Harris was going to speak there on Halloween. She's got the cackle down.
I wonder what she did for Halloween. I wonder if she dressed up.
There's a good question. What did Kamala Harris do for Halloween? Let's see. I bet she gave a speech somewhere. I mean, this is the season to be babbling if you're a presidential or whatnot. Kamala Harris, Halloween 2024. Oh, jeez. Halloween parade float depicts shackled Harris being dragged.
What?
In Pennsylvania. That's horrible. In this, a Pennsylvania Halloween parade float appears to depict Harris being chained up and dragged by a float. Oh my gosh, that's awful. That's funny. Mount Pleasant, Westmoreland County. They're being heavily criticized for their float's depiction. Well, that's interesting. But what about? Of course, Pennsylvania officials denounced the float. Blah blah blah. But I don't want to hear about that. I want to know what she did. That is funny. Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania mayor appalled by it. Oh, it was the Pennsylvania Fire Department, the Westmoreland Fire Department. Oh, now there's a backlash, of course. There's always a backlash. Here we go. Kamala Harris held a Phoenix rally on Halloween. So she came out. She came out as a presidential candidate. Vice President Kamala Harris held a rally in Phoenix on October 31st at Talking Stick Resort Amphitheater. And it was funny. So she wants, she's babbling away. She's smiling, her big snout. That's nice. Silly creature.
Well, we had a pretty good Halloween at the tower. Chief Clancy took his grandkids trick or treating. He was in a leprechaun outfit.
Oh.
I'll bet. It's sort of. It was pretty good. It was actually pretty ingenious. It's this sort of way to meet new people, introduce himself to sort of the new business owners. Go around town. You know what I mean?
See, that's something interesting about the chief, because I've noticed when he takes his kids trick or treating, he doesn't go to private houses. He always goes to businesses up and down Huntington Drive and First Street and all that.
Yeah, well, I mean, those businesses are giving out candy and stuff like that, but no, it definitely, it's a little serious when Clancy comes to your store and he's trick or treating. It's kind of high stakes, a little bit high stakes, because
I'll bet. I can see it now. You just opened up, did you? I'd like to introduce myself. I'm your chief of police. What a lovely little shop you got here. I can see it now. So where'd you say you come from? Oh, El Monte. Yeah, Chief Valdez. A nice man, but never a great one to take advantage of the opportunities.
Yes.
I can just see that. I noticed that for a 12-year-old, Liam Clancy is running around with a Rolex watch these days. Is it a trick-or-treater gift, or?
Well, that's always how it is. I mean,
I think a 12-year-old having a Rolex is a little odd, especially after Halloween, immediately after. But he was strutting around there at Annunciation at All Saints Mass. Look what I got.
I think I think he might have picked that up because there's a big box at the police department. It's lost and found, and sometimes people don't pick it up, and so it just sort of it's got to go somewhere. So that's my guess is the Rolex was from the lost and found, and little Liam just picked it up.
Oh, that's pretty lovely little tyke. he offered to pitch pennies with me when I was back home last month. I didn't think I wanted to pitch pennies with Liam.
No, not a
And
good
it was
idea.
funny. I noticed after we've been talking for a little bit, I went away. I noticed the uh, little four-leaf clover thing I used to have on my keychain was gone. So it's good to know he's following in the family footsteps.
Yeah, he's picking things up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'll say. Oh, sure is. Anything that isn't nailed down is a chip off the old block. Sure, we're proud of him. Now, Shoddy. Oh, poor Shadow. He's not nearly as quick as his brother. Shadow says to his grandfather, Grandpa, when I grow up, I want to be a defender of the law, just like you. I think the poor lad missed out on something there. There's something he's not picking up on. But no, Sean and Liam couldn't be more different. I mean, it's really kind of interesting. But brothers can be like that.
yeah.
Same parents, same upbringing, but very, very different. And I don't think Officer or Chief Clancy, I've got to say now, I don't think the chief would admit to either one of them being his favorite. But I would say Liam takes a lot more after him than poor Shawnee does. Shawnee takes after his mom.
Yeah.
She ever since she started running the ladies auxiliary at the hospital at Arcadia Methodist, things have really changed around there too.
Yeah.
For one thing, they're no longer Arcadia Methodist, which is kind of a giveaway. The hospital was kind of a giveaway. It was taken over by USC.
Yeah.
You know the difference between Monrovia and Arcadia?
What's the difference?
Well, in Monrovia, the situation is serious but not hopeless. In Arcadia, it's hopeless but not serious.
That's pretty good.
Well, it's old. I've stolen it from another reference, but it works just as well for the two cities, the two towers. I mean, St. Augustine Road to the City of God and the City of Man. I guess in Arcadia, Monrovia, you have the City of Baldwin and the City of Wesley.
Wesley?
Yeah, John Wesley. Monrovia was founded as a Methodist temperance settlement.
What about Huntington?
That's what. Well, he of course gave us the Huntington Library and all that.
Yeah.
But he was only tangentially connected to the development of Arcadia, Monrovia, because his railway went out there. The Pacific, the trolleys.
Okay.
The light rail, the Pacific Electric, went out all over the LA area, and Huntington Drive was named after him. But other than the railroad, he really wasn't directly connected.
Well, why did he put so much stuff there with the Huntington Library? You would assume that's a living place in some way.
It was his house. And the Huntington Hotel, he originally built as a guest house for his many friends and relations who come out and visit from the East. And then there were so many of them, he realized he should probably start charging. And that's how it got turned into a hotel, quite literally. And then when he died, neither he nor his wife had any children. So they left the whole Huntington Library became what it is now, which is a self-perpetuating corporation dedicated to the public. And, it does a number of different things. They pursue scholarly works and all that, but they also provide the beautiful gardens for the public to enjoy and that kind of thing, and the artwork for the public. So he was a real philanthropist, without a doubt. But no, it's because of Monrovia's origins as a temperance town that it's retained its moral superiority over Arcadia ever since.
And you told me Monrovia was initially an Irish town, right? And Arcadia's more Italian. At least in
Italian,
terms of the
yeah.
two parishes, right? Holy Angels and
The two
Immaculate Conception.
parishes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
IC was Irish, and Holy Angels was Italian. And of course now that's all, you know, they still have Italians and Holy Angels, but Annunciation is pretty much Mexican and Filipino.
Yeah. All right, let us move on. We've got a lot of questions, a lot of Halloween questions, but first let's start. So we've got the election on Tuesday, and I know everyone likes your thoughts, your predictions. Sometimes you break out your crystal ball and amaze us.
Ah! Oh, sorry. Sorry.
So, what have you got for us for this election? What any predictions?
No, I've got bupkis is what I've got. I don't know how it's going to turn out, ladies and gentlemen. Although I do feel a little bit like the movie trailer for Alien versus Predator. Whoever wins, we lose. It'll just be, I mean, I think on some level I'd rather have the Trumpster win than Kamala, I guess, maybe. But you know, he's left such a horrible taste in my mouth with the whole abortion and IVF thing that I really. And the other thing is, you know, if he wins, I think it's less likely that we'll have a war with Russia over Ukraine, but more likely that we'll have a war in the Near East. And if she wins, I think it's less likely we'll have a war in the Near East, but likely we'll have a war in Ukraine or with Russia. But I don't know. I honestly, the whole thing has left me so bloody disgusted. I voted American Solidarity Party anyway, so I don't. Not that my vote mattered, since as a Californian I live in a one-party state. But and the problem is, so there's several twists on this whole crazy thing. Firstly, you know, people have constantly asked me for the last 4 years if I think that the 2020 election was quote unquote stolen. I don't know. One thing I can tell you is that if it was stolen, there's no way the Trumpster's going to win this time. Because why wouldn't it be stolen again? Whatever that means. You know, if on the other hand he does win, it does, I think, destroy the theories about the 2020 election being stolen.
Yeah.
I just don't see a happy outcome. I really don't. Whoever wins, there'll be, you know, half the country is going to accept it. I can see a nightmare scenario where the Republicans lose the House, the Trumpster wins, and the House refused to certify him. That would be fun.
What happens there?
Well, I think what would happen then is that it would go to the Supreme Court, and if that were the case, then of course the court would find for the Trumpster, since he has it's a majority of his appointees. But if that happens, once he's settled in the White House, because you remember they've done everything they could to humiliate him and attract and smack him around and annoy him since he's been out of office. If he gets back into office, I mean, you'd have to be a real big man, not to say maybe a saint, to not want payback with all the guff he's been put through.
Forget about it.
Yeah, and that would probably not be the best thing for the country, you know. But you know, it's one may fantasize about seeing all the professors at Harvard thrown out of their jobs and smacked around. But the truth is, I really would not like to live under a regime that would do that. Not that I think he's going to do that, but I think we're very likely to get bogged down in a lot of messiness and stupid stuff. And I think, of course, that our ability to act as the world's policeman is rapidly coming to its end, whichever side wins. All we need is for the world to stop accepting the dollar as the International Monetary Unit, and we're toast.
Hmm.
So, but with any luck, that won't happen.
Do you think it's going to be clean? Do you think it's going to be like a clean election, or is this going to drag on and on like in 2020?
I think it'll drag on and on.
Hmm.
I mean, see, the problem is you've got all of these. It used to be that if you couldn't show up to vote, you didn't vote.
Yeah.
It was relatively simple, you know. And then they started not only making absentee voting possible, they started pushing it, as a convenience, and I think there's something honestly basically wrong with that. The idea that voting was a thing that you took hours out of work to do, and you went to the polling booth to vote. It was a very ritualized thing. I remember my dad taking my brother and me with him to the voting booth so we would see how important a thing it was to do. That it wasn't a small thing. It was something that you took, like jury duty, it was something that you took time out of your schedule to do because it was your duty as a citizen. And that was very much the feeling of it. So you didn't have absentee ballots, you didn't have this and that. If for whatever reason you couldn't get to the polling place, you didn't vote. And so people went out of their way to vote, you know? Now, today, with that, with the lack of ID, and again, with all this garbage about, oh, voter ID is racist. Oh, really? Then why aren't driver's licenses racist? Why do you have to present ID when you go into bars or take money out of a bank? Isn't that all racist? And what are they really saying? They're saying people of color are too stupid to get ID. That's what they're saying. And I for one, would find that incredibly patronizing. But I'm not Jesse Jackson, so as Tim Conway Jr. once quoted Jesse Jackson as saying, he didn't quote him, he played the recording. Habba hoo baba. That was back when he used to do that segment. What the hell did Jesse Jackson say?
Yeah.
And he'd play recordings of him like that. You'd have to try to figure out what he was actually saying. It was fun.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it now.
All right. So, okay, we'll buckle up on Tuesday and see what happens. Get the popcorn out.
I'm having a tooth out Tuesday morning. I'm celebrating. I'm offering my extra molar on the left-hand side that shouldn't be there. I'm offering it for my country.
You gonna put it under your pillow?
Well,
okay.
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna hope the Tooth Fairy brings me a whole other person as president, some completely unknown individual. I hope that I'll wake up the next morning and be told that the Honorable Aloysius Lovejoy was elected president of the United States. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And his American Union Party won overwhelmingly in every state. Yeah, you got it. That's exactly what's happening. Thank you very much for that, Vinny. Put it under my pillow. Wow, the election went to somebody who wasn't a moron. Jeez. I can't believe this. Oh man, that'd be a real gift for the Tooth Fairy, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Whew. All right. What can you do? I mean, there's no one else to turn to. The tooth fairy is
No,
the last person.
the Tooth Fairy's America's last hope. The Tooth Fairy. Oh, a nation turns its lonely eyes to you. Come back, Tooth Fairy. Come back. You you alone can help us. Oh my. Well, we'll see if it works. You know what? I'll put it under my pillow, and if some totally unexpected third person appears as the winner, well, then we'll know that the Tooth Fairy did her job and saved the day.
There we go. Okay. All right.
Oh God. I needed that. I really did. I really needed that. Okay. What's next?
All right. Question from Nate, who says, I have two Halloween questions, both Connecticut related. Can Charles
Okay.
explain to us about the legends around these beings known as the Melon Heads? Do you think they may be elves, fairies, or perhaps vampires? Okay.
Well, for those who've never heard, the Melon Heads, I don't remember what town they're in. And it's not just Connecticut. There's several places that have reported these creatures. So I'm gonna cheat. But they're supposed to be in rural Connecticut. I forget the name of the town. I knew it once because I've read Weird Connecticut. Melon Heads. Yeah, Ohio, Michigan, and Connecticut. For those who don't know, in the American folklore of Ohio, Michigan, and Connecticut, melon heads are beings generally described as small humanoids with bulbous heads who occasionally emerge from hiding places to attack people. Different variations of the legend attribute different origins to the entities. So it gives you rundowns in Michigan and Ohio and in Connecticut. Well, several variations, according to Wikipedia, source of all knowledge, several variations of the Melonhead legend can be found throughout southwest Connecticut, especially in southern Litchfield County, my home away from home, central and eastern Fairfield County, and western New Haven County, Connecticut. In Fairfield County and Litchfield County, many tales can be found in communities such as Newtown, New Milford, Trumbull, Shelton, Stratford, Monroe, Easton, and Weston. In Weston and central New Haven County, tales can be found in towns like Seymour, Oxford, Milford, and Southbury. So there are several variations. One is that Fairfield County was the location of an asylum for the criminally insane that burned down in the fall of 1960, resulting in the death of all the staff, most of the patients, with 10 to 20 inmates unaccounted for, supposedly having survived and escaped to the woods. Legend states that the Melonheads' appearance is a result of them having resorted to cannibalism in order to survive the harsh winters of the region and to inbreeding, which in turn caused them to develop hydrocephalus. Some say it's a substitute the asylum or prison with businesses or campgrounds or whatever. Now, according to the second variation, the descendants of a colonial era family from Shelton, Trumbull, who were banished after accusations of witchcraft were made against them, causing them to retreat to the woods. As with the first version of this legend, the variation attributes the appearance of the Melonheads to inbreeding. They allegedly prey upon humans who wander into their territory. So, those places that have them lurking around a dirt road, which is usually called Dracula Drive, and then Wikipedia questions where these things might have come from. And then there are others, similar ones. The Danbury Frog people, commonly told in Danbury/Bethel, the faceless people of Monroe, and the House of the Faceless People, commonly told in Monroe, and the Mongoloid Village, commonly told in communities of central and eastern New Haven County like North Branford. Well, The Melon Heads, I don't know what to tell you. As I say, I'd heard that they were also in Ohio and Michigan. They can't all come from the same place. Who knows? Maybe they're elves, maybe they're fairies, maybe they're nothing at all. Who can say? But they're scary stories for Halloween. And I myself would not go down a place nicknamed Dracula Drive after dark with a car that, with an eighth of a tank of gas and, only with no spare tire. Let me see. What would the other buildups be? No spare tire. Only an eighth of a tank of gas. I know. Let's go down Dracula Drive at 1 a.m.
Sounds like the beginning of a bad horror movie.
A really bad horror movie. So let that be a lesson to you, ladies and gentlemen. If you find yourself at Dracula Drive in any of those 3 states in a rural town, it's late at night, you've only got an eighth of a tank of gas, you know what? Keep driving. Just keep going. Drive on. Don't make that left turn. Just keep driving. And if you run out of gas, even if you're still on the highway, call AAA. Don't suddenly think, oh, wait a minute. I remember there was a gas station just about a mile down the road. I guess I'll go back and get it. You stay with the car. No. You lock the doors and windows. You call AAA. That's what you do. And what if my phone isn't working? Ladies and gentlemen, you should not be in a place where your phone isn't working at 1 a.m. You should not be driving around strange rural backwaters at that hour of the night. I'm sorry. And you should never go out with only an eighth of a tank of gas anyway. Or the other thing, if you're in that kind of an area, very strange and rural, go to a chain motel.
A Jane motel?
A chain motel.
Oh, chain. Okay.
Yeah, go to Motel 6, go to Best Western. Do not go to the Hideaway Motel.
Gotcha. Good advice.
Yes, I gotta be very, very specific about this. You don't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff. If you see a group of people walking slowly toward your car when you're stalled, don't roll down the window and ask directions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Keep the windows rolled up, and if anything, kind of hunker down and hope they don't notice you.
Right.
I could write a survival guide to horror movie characters.
Definitely. That's for sure. All right. What about Nate says, what do you think actually went down in Dudley Town? Seems that this is proof there was real witchcraft here in New England, despite what modern scholars might say about the matter. But what do you think?
Well, again, these are stories I love to tell. Dudley Town is in the town of Cornwall, Connecticut. It has other alternative names like Dark Entry and Owlsbury. But it was a place, it's a ghost town. It's on private property now, and you're forbidden to go there. But supposedly it was destroyed by, well, witchcraft. Like Dogtown, which is a similar place near, it's on the Cape Ann Peninsula between Gloucester and Rockport. All sorts of weird stories and legends of witches and werewolves and other mayhem. Who knows? I don't. Fun to speculate about, though. And especially this time of year when the veil between the worlds is very thin. We had to get that in there somehow,
Dan Aykroyd, he says Dudley Town is the most haunted place on Earth.
That's what people say. I take it you've never heard of Dudley Town.
Oh, in the same interview, he mistakenly stated that Dudley Town was in Massachusetts.
He was thinking of Dogtown.
Oh. Is that also haunted?
Yes. I just mentioned it. See, you weren't listening. You were looking stuff up
I
and
was
not
looking
listening.
stuff up. Yeah, because I wanted to see what this place looks like. But it's completely closed down, I guess. So,
Yeah, it's wooded now, so you wouldn't see much there except if they saw you.
ooh.
And see again, why would you do that? You come up to a road that's called Dark Entry. Really? Really? You're gonna drive down that road?
It's Halloween though.
Oh well, all the more reason. Yeah, what was I thinking of? Safest night of the year to go to places like that. Gee. Why not St. John's Eve? Why not Walpurgisnacht? I don't know. Golly. Ladies and gentlemen, again, don't be like stupid people in horror films. Bad things happen. You know a good place to be at 2 a.m. on the morning after Halloween night?
I don't know. In bed? What?
Yeah, exactly. In bed in your house. That's not traipsing around, driving a car with no spare tire and very little gas.
All right, Rob says, "Greetings, gentlemen. I hope I am not too late for the Halloween special. My Halloween-themed questions are as follows. Would Charles be so kind as to tell myself and my fellow listeners the rest of the story, with apologies to Paul Harvey, of these real-life scary folks? He's got a list of 4 scary people here. And so we're going to go down the list, with number 1 being Vlad the Impaler.
Well, Vlad the Impaler lived in the 1400s, I believe, in Romania. He was the Prince of Wallachia. He had been how do I say it, sent as a hostage with his brother to the Ottoman Sultan by his father. He and his brother were sent as hostages for the father's good behavior as Prince of Wallachia. Well, they were really abused by the Turks, in the classic sense, shall we say. So much so that his brother became the Sultan's male concubine, and this gave him a real dislike of the Turks. So he managed to escape, and when his father died, he became the Prince of Wallachia, and he waged war on the Turks, and he would impale them. Remember, I said he'd been abused.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it.
Well, see, that's why it's wise not to abuse children. If nothing else, you don't know what they'll grow up into, and then you'll be sorry. But he did that with all of his enemies, but the Turks were by far the majority of them, and he hated them. So you didn't want to be a Turkish prisoner of Vlad the Impaler. They called him Dracul in Romanian, which means devil or dragon, and he was the inspiration for Count Dracula.
Rob says that Vlad is revered in Romania as the George Washington of that country. Is that true?
By a lot of Romanians, yeah, I would say that is true.
It's interesting. All right, next on that list is Jack the Ripper.
Oh, Jack the Ripper. Well, Jack the Ripper is was, we never found out who he was, but in the 1880s and 90s, I guess, he Jack the Ripper was a horrible murderer. He killed several women. I forget how many, 6 or 7. Cut them up in dreadful, dreadful ways. His murders were disgusting. But he was never caught, and there were several attempts to solve the murder, the mystery, and declare who he was. I don't know if any of them are actually accurate. I think there was one very recently which sounds reasonable, but as with so much of the stuff, you don't know for sure. Let me just see. Again, we'll go to Wikipedia, source of all truth. If they accept, unidentified serial killer, well, we know that part. Uh, the let's see how the suspects. There have been mutually compatible claims. The DNA evidence points conclusively to two different suspects: Aaron Kaminsky, a Whitechapel barber, and artist Walter Sickert. The scientific methodology used to advance both these claims by their proponents has also been criticized. It says there are numerous varied theories about the actual identity and profession of Jack the Ripper, but authorities have not agreed upon any of them, and the number of named suspects reaches over 100. Despite continued interest in the case, the Ripper's identity remains unknown. So, we don't know.
Wow. Wikipedia has an incredibly thorough content on Jack the Ripper, even with going in depth on every single victim. It's really mind blowing. All right, next on the list is Elizabeth Bathory, and Rob says that's a noble woman said to bathe in the blood of virgins to maintain her youthful appearance. An accusation strikingly similar to modern elites.
Well, yes, that was in fact the claim about Elizabeth Bathory, and in fact, it's true. She 15, 16 to 16, 14, she had a reign of terror. And at the end of the day, there was only one power. She was an extremely powerful woman, both in the local area that she controlled as a noblewoman and at the Hungarian court. And in the end, there was only one tribunal that was able to bring her to justice: the Inquisition.
Wow.
It was the church that ended up putting an end to her excesses, shall we say, for which we don't get any,
credit.
No.
So was she put to death? What happened?
I believe she was in prison. Let me check. I think she was sort of kept under house arrest until she died. Yes, she was. She was arrested. Zvinsky to his she was detained in the castle for the remainder of her life, where she died at age 54. So there she is.
It says hundreds. It says she's accused of torturing and killing hundreds of girls and women.
Yeah. Yep, she was not a nice person.
It's hard to fathom.
Well,
okay.
What can I tell you? I mean,
we've got
she needed a place.
One last person on this list, which is H.H. Holmes, University of Michigan alumnus and first known serial killer who terrorized the 1893 Columbian Exposition in Chicago.
Yes.
Huh.
He constructed a house, the so-called murder castle, that had all sorts of secret rooms and panels and all that, and he put it out as a boarding house, and it made it impossible to murder with some impunity. Killed a lot of people.
Why is he not so well known as compared to a lot of these other people?
I don't know. It may very well be that we Americans are embarrassed by him. You know, we don't like to think of ourselves. I mean, look, Jack the Ripper, Vlad the Impaler, and Countess Bathory had very, very picturesque backgrounds. But this guy performed his murders against the background of the Great Chicago Exhibition, the symbol of American technological supremacy, and of our being forward in the advance of mankind. Well, this is a story that showed maybe we hadn't really gotten as far ahead as we would like to think.
Hmm.
It was a horrible tale. I'm afraid that as serial killers go, he wasn't a nice person.
It's interesting. Yeah, it looks like he did a lot of stuff too. He just insurance fraud, forgery, swindling,
Yeah,
horse theft. He did all the things. Hmm.
he was an all-purpose criminal, and he certainly, he got away with it. He got away with most of what he did for a very long time. And again, it was an embarrassment to the United States. It was horrible.
Hmm. I see. It says Holmes Games gave various contradictory accounts of his life, initially claiming innocence and later that he was possessed by Satan. His propensity for lying has made it difficult for researchers to ascertain the truth on the basis of his statements. Hmm.
Yeah, I'll say.
Wow.
I'll say.
All right. Moving on, we've got a question from Tampa Tobacconist who says, "What can Charles share about the so-called Count of Saint Germain? Does Charles have a theory about the origins of this mysterious figure? Does Charles think there could be any truth to the legends about him being immortal?"
Well, the Count of Saint Germain appeared at the French court at the time of Louis XV, and claimed, well, he would never directly claim to be immortal, but he would sort of give heavy hints about having been around at various historic events. And there was the famous story of some of his friends asking his valet, uh, "Is it true your master is over 500 years old?" And the valet said, "I really couldn't tell you. I've only been with the count for 150 years myself." So, was he a charlatan? Was he a was he a charlatan? Was he uh, a con artist? Hard to say. Uh, he's supposed to have died, I think, in the 1770s or 80s. But before he did, this Madame Dufresne, who met him then when she was a young girl, claimed to have seen him, I think, in 1810 or 1820. Um, which is interesting if true. Again, it's funny. These are things I don't sit around thinking a lot about. But the Count of Saint Germain, there are a lot of theories about him, and you see the immortal Count of Saint Germain. Whose real name? This is again Wikipedia, source of all knowledge. Whose real name is 1691 or 1712, died in 1784. Whose real name and origins remain unknown, was a European adventurer and interested in achievements in science, alchemy, philosophy, and the arts. He knew some of the top contemporary figures of his time, including Casanova, Voltaire, and Mozart. He's made all sorts of claims. Toward the end of his life, he claimed to be the son of Francis Rákóczi, the Prince of Transylvania. You see, he had a lot of money, he was well educated, and nobody really quite knew where he came from. It's hard to say. And the He appears in France. He does marvels. He claimed to be able to melt diamonds. He appeared here. He appeared there. He was all over Europe. He wrote a lot of songs. Even he was very, very dedicated artistically. But what and who was he really? Nobody really knows.
Seems like just a big giant ruse. It's this previous incarnations. You see this on Wikipedia? According to the Theosophical Society.
Oh, they get excited about him, and in fact, one of the great theosophists of the 19th century, late 19th, early 20th century, C.W. Leadbeater, claimed to have met him in 1860. Yeah, there is a theosophy. But
they say he reincarnated as Samuel, as in the Bible, Samuel, Plato.
It was
Saint
Francis
Joseph,
Bacon,
Merlin,
yeah,
Christopher Columbus, for good measure. Francis Bacon. Hey, this is insane.
Yeah. Ah, here we are. Claimed encounters with Saint Germain. Oh, Edgar Casey. I had no idea that he'd encountered him. Guy Ballard, of course. He's a part of the Mount Shasta mythology. I mean, he's all over the place. C.W. Leadbeater claimed to have met him in Rome in 1926, I thought 1860, and gave a physical description of him. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, man, that's amazing. Yeah. The Count of Saint Germain.
All right.
Well, we've really been trick or treating this week, haven't we?
That's for sure. We got more. There's still 4 questions left. We got a bunch from Helvicio, who says, "Dear Don Vincenzo and Sir Charles, October country has not been the same without you two. Store decorations.
But we're back.
We're back. Store decorations are already telling us to stop thinking about Halloween and to plan for Christmas. But I hope that you can give us one last hurrah for the spooky season. On to the questions."
You bet. You bet. We're here, Helvicio. This is still Hallowtide when we're doing this. It's the last day of Hallowtide. In that sense, the last day of the October country. It's still the spooky season, and it's the month of the Holy Souls, the time of the spirits in Estonian folklore. We're here. We're ghostly. We're elves. We're witches. We're warlocks. We're the entire government of the United States of America. About as scary as it gets.
Wow. All right. So he says, I think most people from my generation remember Vincent Price, if we recall him at all, as Professor Ratigan in the Great Mouse Detective. But he starred in several horror movies as well. What would you say are the best horror movies featuring Vincent Price?
Well, I would say The House on Haunted Hill, The Raven, The Haunted Palace, The Mask of the Red Death, and The Fall of the House of Usher.
Wow.
Oh, and The House of the Seven Gables.
The House of the Seven Gables?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. All right. I know Charles prefers Bela Lugosi's performance as Count Dracula, but Christopher Lee is also famous for portraying the Prince of Darkness. Did Christopher Lee do anything better than Lugosi in his performances as the Count?
No. But, to be fair, he wasn't bad. He just wasn't Lugosi. I mean, Lugosi inhabited the role in a way that I don't think any actor has done before or since. He made it his own. I mean, Lee was a brilliant actor, don't get me wrong. He really was. And of course, younger people remember him as Saruman in Lord of the Rings. But he was very creepy as Count Dracula. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. But it wasn't Lugosi.
Hmm. I always tell my friends that horror movies run on stupid people. The characters acting stupidly in ways the audience knows will end badly adds to the horror of the situation. Does Charles agree? And can he name good horror movies which only have a minimum of stupidity?
Yes, I do agree. And I can't really think of any because part of the horror is you're watching people do things that you know are insanely stupid. Driving down Dracula Drive at 1 a.m. on Halloween night. No, don't do that. When you don't have a spare tire and you have no petrol. You know, walking down the long dark corridor at midnight, at the other end of which is the haunted chamber. When the smartest thing you can do is turn right around, lock your door, and go to bed. Maybe put up a chair against the door.
It's funny. Sometimes it's the opposite. We're always talking about go to your house. I remember. Have you seen the movie Paranormal Activity? I remember
Yes.
my friends and I were like, go to the store, go on a motel, go shopping, do anything, get out of the house, please.
Well, yeah. I mean, if it was something like that, if I lived in a haunted house, I wouldn't be staying there very long.
Yeah.
I mean, people with real hauntings. Number one, they're generally not anything like life threatening. They're just scary. But number two, um, it's how do I put this nicely? It it the real thing is you get your thrill out of watching people do stupid things and saying, no, don't do that. Thinking, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Because you know what's going to happen. And the longer they drag it out, one of the things that happens is someone hears something or thinks they see something, then it's nothing. They relax for a minute, and then the horrible thing happens.
Yeah.
That happens constantly. You know, you're walking down that long corridor I told you about, and then you hear something. You turn around, it's just the cat, and then you turn around and face it.
Yeah.
Now, see how much smarter it would have been to stay at the other end of the hallway?
Yeah.
With a movie like Paranormal, yeah, I'd get out of there. The no, I just wouldn't take it. I'd time to go. See ya. Better luck with the next morons.
So, what about? What about? I mean, what horror movies have a minimum of stupidity? Would you say? I mean, is that possible, or does that break everything?
No, I don't think it entirely breaks. I mean, Dracula. There's certain. Well, Dracula starts with a major moment of stupidity, and that's Renfield going to Castle Dracula late at night. And everybody at the tavern begs him not to. But of course, if he had done the smart thing, there wouldn't have been a film. Please do not go for your mother's sake. Well, all right, I'll go first thing in the morning. Okay. He's now got 12 hours of daylight. He gets up there in a hired coach because nobody minds taking him up there then. Nobody answers the doorbell because the vampire is sleeping. So he just goes back to the tavern and that's it. I used to joke about the company that was hired before Renfield, and their man did just that. And so that night, there was a very angry letter delivered from Count Dracula telling him that his services were no longer needed. He might as well go back to England because he had refused to obey his commands, and that he'd fight somebody else to do it. And of course, somebody else turned out to be Renfield's company. You don't hear the first story because there's nothing there. There's, you know, don't go up on Haunted Hill. All right, I won't. Anybody who sensibly heeds the warnings in a film would immediately derail the film, like Pet Sematary. You know, when the neighbor tells the kid, "Don't go to the pet cemetery," kid goes, "Oh, okay, I won't." End of movie.
Yeah. So at some point, it's someone not responding to alarms that should be going off in their brain.
Yeah.
You know.
But if they do, I mean, imagine Little Red Riding Hood. Little Red Riding Hood meets the wolf. Where are you going, little girl? She refuses to talk to him and just keeps walking.
I guess so.
That's and she gets to Grandma's house. Now, mind you, why the wolf wouldn't kill her and eat her there, one doesn't know. But at least she doesn't know she's going to Grandma's house.
You know what was a really interesting horror movie? I actually did. I mean, it's not horror, but it was sort of billed as horror in the trailers. The Village. Have you seen that movie?
Oh, yeah.
So that's a little bit different, right? That's, I thought that was an interesting take.
Well, yeah. But I mean, The Village, of course, it wasn't supernatural. But take something else Germain did. Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Now there were a lot of giveaways that, of course, the audience didn't get usually, but that what's his face's character should have gotten. That something was untoward.
Oh, what, Bruce Willis?
Yeah, Bruce Willis. And you remember at the very beginning when the kid explains how the ghosts are and like they can't see each other.
Yeah.
And they don't react well, and they don't know they're dead. And there are clues scattered throughout the film, like the fact that you never see Willis talking to any other adult.
You're right.
Or at least no other adult talks to Willis. So there's the scene where he's sitting across from the kid's mother. And they're not having a conversation. She's just sitting there. And you think they're looking at each other.
Yeah.
And then his conversations with his wife, and she takes out the ring and all that. And he doesn't notice anything.
Yeah. Yeah. But so I mean, is that quote unquote? I personally, that was a long time ago. I only saw that when it came out. I didn't catch all those nuances.
You were like 4.
I was really young. Yeah, I was really young. But is that so? Are you trying to say that has elements of stupid or obvious or something there?
Well, you might. The problem is that he's not really ever being menaced.
Yeah,
his
right.
thing is really self-realization.
Yeah.
You see, the kid comes to self-realization as well.
Yeah.
And one of the things the kid finally realizes, A, these things are real, but B, they can't harm him.
Yeah.
And he has to take them in stride, which is the whole lesson of the Poison Girl.
Right.
So he learns to harness his ability. Bruce Willis is actually in a sort of purgatory.
Okay. So I think we can safely classify it as a minimum. Is that a good horror movie with a minimum of stupidity?
Yeah, I'd say there's a minimum of stupidity in that.
Yeah.
Um, let's say
What about The Ring? Let's talk about The Ring. Have you seen The
I
Ring?
never, I no, I haven't. I know I've heard about it. I've never read it.
Okay.
I mean, I've never seen it. I've never seen it. Uh, I would say, I would say Salem's Lot has a certain amount of stupidity involved,
Mm,
especially on the part of Larry Crockett, who is the crooked real estate man who brings the evil Barlow, not our own Peter Barlow, who's a very good man and the associate of Ask Okie.
mm,
So Peter Barlow is not the evil Barlow, Straker and Barlow, who's the vampire that ruined Salem's Lot.
right.
Okay, they're not the same person, although they are both of English descent. Well, I mean, Barlow is actually Brighton. He's really Austrian, but he pretends to be English. Peter Barlow is the real thing, though. He's Canadian English, Anglo-Canadian. So that's, he's
Yeah.
not a vampire either.
Yeah.
That's very important.
Yeah.
World of different. Actually, Ask Okie could have signs. No vampires employed here. Well, I mean that might make people question other bespoke tailors. Well, you've got to advertise you don't employ vampires. But at any rate, Larry Crockett should have figured out there was a real problem with this new client of his. But his greed blinded him. Yeah, I mean, let me see. And too. I mean, most vampire and werewolf flicks have a lot of people in denial. But I'm sorry if you keep finding bodies drained of blood or the throats ripped out. Oh, there must be a logical explanation. No, actually there isn't. That's not how things work.
Yeah.
So, but usually they don't find it until it's too late. The X-Files, I guess, had a great deal of stupidity in them.
I don't remember those too well. I thought those were very. Obviously, they were a big deal when they came out. It was huge. Everybody was always raving about them. Were you a fan?
No, I never watched them when they were out, but I have binge watched in the past few months.
Okay, interesting.
So I've gotten caught up. I'm now in season 10, which came out in 2016.
Oh, okay. All right, let's move on to the final question for today. A Catholic commentator claimed that the cosmic horror one finds in H.P. Lovecraft's universe derives from the effect Darwinism had on society. Darwinism essentially posits a universe without a prime mover, and hence without meaning, leaving modern man adrift in a hostile cosmos. Is there something to this opinion?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's precisely what it is. And to be honest with you, that's why, much as I love Lovecraft's work, because of the way he created atmosphere and the style and all that, never scared me. Never scared me at all. Because it just wasn't real to me. On the other hand, Stephen King's Salem's Lot, the book, I mean, when I read it in high school, scared me no end. Because it was set in what is, for me anyway, the real world, the Catholic moral universe, where, since Vatican II, spiritual evil, to say nothing of spiritual good, was totally downgraded. Now we're talking about the 70s. It's not so bad now. And one of the reasons it's not so bad is because of things like The Exorcist, the work of Father Chad Ripperger, and gosh, so many other things. In 1975, it was so bad in Catholic theological circles that the Holy See, the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, had to issue an instruction on demonology, affirming that the devil was real and not simply the personification of evil forces, but a real terrible being, and so on. So, in other words, reaffirming the church's traditional teaching. Well, that was how bad it had gotten, because a lot of clerics in those days, a lot of theologians taught that there was no personal devil, that there were no demons, and very possibly no angels. These were just symbols or personifications or whatever you like. What more than anything else refuted that was The Exorcist, actually, more than the Holy Office's warning, because it was the movie was so graphic, so real, you know, and that brought back the idea of a personal devil to the fore. But that period King captures so well before the devil returned, as it were. And the priest in the book, Father Callahan, is very much, and it's extremely explicit about this. King is no Catholic at all. Where he got the inspiration for this, I couldn't tell you, but he did it very, very well. This priest is basically devastated over what's happened since Vatican II, where it seems that spiritual evil has been reduced to social problems, you know, and spiritual good is simply rectifying them. It's psychology, it's sociology. So everything's been despiritualized. It's had a terrible effect on his priesthood. He still believes, but he's become something of an alky, and his faith is rocky. Well, into all of this comes the vampire Barlow, which Callahan at once takes as a challenge, as an affirmation of his faith, and also an attack on it. Will his faith be strong enough to resist the evil that the vampire brings to Salem's Lot? And that element of the story was so real and so, I mean, for horror to be frightening, honestly, you have to have the feeling that it could happen to you somehow, some way. And I could, partly because it was set in a New England town, very much like many I've seen in my life, and partly because it captured what was then the Catholic dilemma so well. It took place in the Catholic moral universe, and as a result, I found it hysteric, very, very frightening, in a way that I've simply never found Lovecraft.
I see. That makes sense, because all the sort of pieces are in place in terms of the world, and it's like this world makes sense. You understand this world, whereas Lovecraft's world is more.
It's like a fantasy.
Yeah.
A dark fantasy. I mean, you know, and as I say, he was a great stylist. He creates a believable secondary world. You know, it's like Harry Potter. I mean, I never found Harry Potter scary either. I admire the way she was able to construct her alternative universe. She's a good stylist, etc., etc. She's not Tolkien, but who is? So, you know, I never found the quote unquote frightening parts of Harry Potter frightening. It was a fun read, but it wasn't scary.
All right, that's all the questions we have for this episode. Charles, any last words?
Yes, indeedio. I'll say, boy, will I say. First, tomorrow is Sunday, November the 3rd, the Feast of St. Hubert. Now, the spooky time isn't quite over because you can go up until November 8th, my birthday, the octave day of All Saints. You can go to the cemetery and pray for a plenary indulgence to the dead, which I recommend very highly. November is the month of the Holy Souls, so be sure to pray for them, for those you know, those you don't. Your friends, your relatives, and everybody else's friends and relatives, may we all meet merrily in paradise after this difficult time on earth and after, for some of us, purgation in purgatory. May we all meet very happily and very merrily when we slough off this mortal coil. Be sure to teach your kids about holy water and the sacramentals. This time of the darkness, when the veil between the worlds is very thin, this is a good time to teach them about sacramentals. And next week is going to be a little bit difficult because I'm going to be sitting right here. Yeah. So sorry about that.
Okay.
Gotta live with it.
All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next week. Sorry for the long hiatus. It really seemed like Big Almond had gotten across to us last week.
Oh, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
You were sick as a dog, and my internet had gone dead as a doornail. So it was sad. You would have been going into empty space.
Yep. All right, what is it if it's Monday?
It's off the menu.
What about the soul you save?
It may be your own.
See you next time, everyone.
God bless you all, and I hope you had a happy Halloween.